May 7th, 2008, Miami Beach, minutes after midnight. Federal agents watch a man digging in his parents' backyard. Night vision scopes track every movement as the shovel hits something solid. They uncover a sealed plastic drum. Inside it, $1.1 million in cash, stacked and vacuum-packed. The man they arrest is not a cartel member, not a fugitive, not a career thief. He is a paid Secret Service informant. For 3 years, he has collected government money to assist cybercrime investigations. And for the same 3 years, he has been running the largest retail data breach in American history. He stole 170 million credit cards, caused over $400 million in losses, and operated inside federal agencies without raising suspicion. This is the story of how the government's own informant built a nationwide cybercrime network, how investigators uncovered the truth, and how one overlooked detail exposed the most damaging insider deception the U.S. had ever seen. Early 2000s. Miami, Florida. The heat hangs over the suburbs in a way that makes the neighborhood feel still. Inside a small bedroom at the back of a computer. The room is dim, lit only by the monitor's glow. His name is Albert Gonzalez, and this quiet space will become the foundation for one of the most damaging cybercrime operations in American history. Before anything else, Albert is isolated. Teachers describe him as intelligent but withdrawn. He rarely participates in class. He doesn't socialize. He spends hours in front of a computer because, for him, the internet is not a distraction. It's a place where he finally feels understood. By 14, he's teaching himself to code using whatever resources he can find online. By 15, he's exploring early hacking forums, fascinated by users who bypass systems for challenge and status. His computer becomes his entire world. When a church counselor asks him who he talks to most, Albert answers honestly, "My computer." Online, he adopts new identities, aliases, give him confidence he never had in real life. Names like Kambajani, Segvik, and Switnazi appear beside his posts on underground forums. These are early years of the carding world. Stolen credit cards, fake identities, compromised accounts. Forums like Shadow Crew are filled with anonymous users, trading methods, exploits, and tools. Albert doesn't just participate, he stands out. His posts are technical, specific, and sharper than his age suggests. Within that underground community, Gonzalez finally finds recognition. Skilled hackers begin to trust him. They send him private messages. They ask for scripts. They include him in small group chats. Albert learns fast, and more importantly, he learns quietly. By 17, he's already involved in basic intrusions, probing unsecured networks, scraping data, copying card numbers, and experimenting with identity theft techniques. This is the moment where his trajectory becomes dangerous. His intelligence grows, but so does his ego. Albert believes he's untouchable because he's behind a keyboard, hidden behind usernames and encrypted channels. He begins traveling more frequently, testing stolen cards at ATMs, using fraudulent identities, and making purchases with cloned cards. Albert's early success ends abruptly outside a New Jersey bank. He's 22, living far from home and operating with increased confidence. On this day, he attempts to withdraw cash using a fraudulent credit card. It's routine for him. A quick stop, a small withdrawal, nothing unusual. But bank staff have already flagged suspicious behavior. Security is alerted. Police respond. Albert is caught carrying multiple fake cards, It should have ended there. For most small-time Carters, this is the point where the story collapses. But Albert isn't typical, and law enforcement makes a mistake they won't fully understand until years later. After the arrest, the U.S. Secret Service steps in. They are tracking members of Shadow Crew, and Albert's name is familiar. Not as a criminal they've cornered, but as someone knowledgeable enough to assist them. They offer him a deal. Help them understand how hackers operate. Assist in identifying major carding forum members. Become a paid informant. Avoid prison. Albert accepts without hesitation. But beneath the agreement, another motive forms, one that investigators fail to notice. As an informant, Albert gains more than freedom. He gains access. He sees investigative methods, internal communication patterns, and law enforcement blind spots. He sits in offices where agents discuss techniques meant to stop criminals like him. His handlers trust him enough to bring him to cybercrime seminars and conferences. He becomes a public example of rehabilitation, a former offender who now helps the government. His new identity is formalized. CISU-1. Confidential Informant, Secret Service Unit 1. His salary is $75,000 a year, paid by the same institution that believes he is reformed. But Albert is not reformed. The opposite happens. The attention, the trust, the access, it all fuels him. He understands now exactly how agencies think, what they monitor and what they ignore. His role as an informant becomes the perfect cover, and he begins to see an opportunity no hacker before him has had. He will use the government's protection to commit larger crimes than he ever attempted alone. In 2004, Albert requests permission to return to Miami. He claims health issues. He wants to be closer to his family. His handlers approve the transfer. They see no problem. In their eyes, Albert is stable, cooperative, and valuable. But returning home puts him back in contact with people law enforcement never wanted near him again. The moment he arrives in Miami, old habits resurface. Old friends reappear. A new plan begins forming. And this time, Albert isn't thinking about small ATM withdrawals. He's thinking about accessing corporate networks. He's thinking about large-scale database theft. He's thinking about an operation that will surpass every hack committed during that decade. At this point in his life, he is a government-paid informant. But he's also becoming something else, a calculating architect of what will become the largest retail data breach in American history. Albert understands that his Secret Service handlers trust him completely. He understands they see him as a success story. He understands they won't be watching him closely. What he doesn't understand yet is that the decisions he makes in Miami will put him on a collision course with the same agents who helped him avoid prison. This is where his double life begins. The government sees him as a partner, but Albert sees himself as invisible. The next part of the story is where he starts building the network, the tools, and the confidence that will allow him to steal from Fortune 500 companies without anyone noticing, not even the people signing his checks. Early 2005. Albert Gonzalez is back in Miami, officially under the protection and supervision of the U.S. government. His relocation was approved without hesitation. His handlers believed he needed familiar surroundings to stay on track. They believed the distance from New Jersey would stabilize him. They believed he was reformed. That belief was the first major mistake in a long sequence that would follow. Miami reconnects Albert to the environment that shaped him. Old contacts reach out. former associates drop by. Within weeks, Albert is no longer the controlled, monitored insider the Secret Service thought they had cultivated. He resumes a life of late-night coding, private conversations, and ambitious planning. But this time he is operating under a powerful shield, the confidence that no one is watching. The first person to re-enter his orbit is Stephen Watt, a talented programmer with a strong grasp of low-level system operations. Watt is quiet, logical, and capable of building custom tools with precision. Albert sees him not as a friend, but as an asset, someone who can turn vague ideas into functional code. The second key figure is Damon Miami Towie. Towie is not a technical mastermind. He isn't writing exploits or malware, but he understands logistics, money movement, and the carding ecosystem. He knows buyers, brokers, and channels for distributing stolen data. Albert needs both skill sets. Watt will build the tools. Towie will help monetize them. Watt begins as casual conversation quickly becomes structured collaboration. Albert outlines a plan larger than anything the group has attempted before. The target is not a single store or small database. It is the entire retail system of the United States. The plan is simple in design, devastating in execution. During the mid-2000s, major retailers across the U.S., including TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Sports Authority, BJ's Wholesale, OfficeMax, and dozens more, run insecure, outdated wireless networks. Many of these networks use weak encryption. Some use none at all. Albert discovers this flaw while casually scanning networks around Miami. The unsecured signals are not hidden or protected. They broadcast customer data without realizing the vulnerability. To Albert, this is not an opportunity. It is a blueprint. He names the plan Operation Get Rich or Die Trying, inspired by a 50 Cent album released a year earlier. It is a clear summary of his mindset: reckless, ambitious, and driven by confidence that no one will suspect an active federal informant. The method is called war driving. Albert and his crew drive through commercial areas with a laptop, a long-range antenna, and a set of scanning tools. The moment they find a store broadcasting unencrypted data, they connect. Once inside the network, they access point-of-sale systems, intercept card numbers, and install malware that captures transactions in real time. This is not a one-time breach. This is a continuous stream of data. TJX alone will later admit that intruders were inside their network for almost 2 years before discovery. One night, Albert parks outside a Marshalls store in Miami. There is nothing unusual about the location. A regular commercial plaza, parking lot half empty, security cameras pointed toward entrances rather than the asphalt. Albert opens his laptop. His scanning tools identify a wireless network belonging to the store. It is unsecured. He connects instantly. There is no firewall challenge, no encryption key, no intrusion detection alert. He navigates the internal system, finds the transaction database, and verifies what he suspected. Customer credit card information is stored and transmitted in the open. He calls Watt and sends him a portion of the scanned data. Watt confirms the structure is usable. Towie already has buyers lined up. The operation is now real. Over the next months, the group expands its operations. They target multiple TJX locations, then branch into other retail chains. The malware Watt builds becomes increasingly advanced. It can evade detection, record data silently, and forward captured card numbers through layered servers. Albert's confidence grows as quickly as the database of stolen cards. Towie handles distribution through trusted overseas brokers, many of whom deal in bulk transactions. A single card might sell for $10, but a gold tier account could reach $100. At scale, the profits are enormous. Within months, Albert is collecting millions. During the same period, Albert continues working with the Secret Service. He attends cybercrime seminars as an invited speaker. He teaches agents methods to identify online fraud. He instructs them on vulnerabilities inside retail networks, vulnerabilities he is actively exploiting. He receives government paychecks while simultaneously draining Fortune 500 companies. His handlers praise his contributions. They cite him as an example of rehabilitation. They believe he is helping them dismantle the same communities he secretly oversees. Albert understands the advantage of this arrangement. Every time he meets with agents, he studies their questions. He learns what they suspect, where they are looking, and how they interpret activity patterns. This knowledge shapes his operation. He is not simply hacking stores, he is hacking the people responsible for catching him. As the operation expands, Albert's personal wealth becomes difficult to hide. He celebrates his 26th birthday by renting an upscale Miami venue and spending $75,000 in a single night. To most onlookers, he appears to be a young man who made sudden money through ambiguous means. But no one questions him seriously. He buys a car, he buys a condo, he buys Rolex watches for friends and family. He buys a Tiffany diamond ring for his girlfriend. The income grows faster than he can manage. At one point, a cash counting machine breaks under the load of $340,000, forcing him to count it manually. Realizing that he is accumulating too much physical cash, he begins storing money in a way that reflects his state of mind. Hidden, unrecorded, and close to home, he fills plastic buckets with stacks of vacuum-sealed bills. He buries them in his parents' backyard under the cover of night. It is inefficient, but it is safe, or so he believes. Inside federal offices, Albert is still regarded as a key informant. Nothing in his behavior raises alarms. He remains punctual, calm, and cooperative. His reports sound credible. His explanations for personal spending go unquestioned. His handlers are unaware that the criminal they're hunting, the one responsible for the unprecedented rise in retail data breaches, is sitting in their meetings every week. By late 2006, Albert's operation has crossed beyond anything the underground has ever seen. Millions of card numbers, corporate networks breached nationwide, a flood of fraudulent charges sweeping across the country. Yet he still feels secure, protected by his informant status, protected by the government's trust. What he does not know is that the first major crack in his system is approaching, not because of an insider leak, not because of agency suspicion, but because his operation has grown too large to stay invisible. The next stage of the story begins with a discovery thousands of miles away. A discovery that will lead investigators directly into Albert's hidden world, even while they continue shaking his hand during weekly briefings. Early 2007, banks across the United States begin reporting a sharp rise in fraudulent charges. The transactions are scattered across states, retailers, and time zones. What makes the surge unusual is the pattern. Thousands of unrelated consumers experiencing card theft in the same window without any clear point of compromise. Behind closed doors, federal investigators meet with executives from multiple financial institutions. The conversations are direct, fraud levels are rising faster than their analysts can trace. Losses are growing. Customers are demanding answers. Retailers are submitting incident reports, but none can identify the source. At first, investigators assume the breaches are isolated, a single store here, another there. But as more reports come in, the scale becomes harder to deny. Something coordinated is happening. In January 2007, TJX, the parent company of TJ Maxx and Marshalls, alerts authorities that intruders access their network. Their internal review suggests the infiltration lasted far longer than anyone realized. Tens of millions of customer accounts may have been exposed. The admission puts immediate pressure on the Secret Service Cybercrime Unit. They assemble a multi-agency task force. Agents from the FBI, Secret Service, and local law enforcement meet daily, reviewing logs, timestamps, and packet data recovered from affected retailers. As they analyze these records, one fact becomes clear. Whoever is behind the attack operated with precision. The intrusions show no sloppy errors, no traceable routes, and no rushed movements. Every action inside the networks appears deliberate. July 2007. Turkish police detain a Ukrainian national named Maxim Yastremski, known in the carding world for supplying high-volume stolen credit card data. He is caught while traveling and immediately flagged by authorities because of his online footprint. Investigators in the United States request access to his laptop. When they receive an image of the drive, they find something they didn't expect. Massive databases of stolen card numbers. Malware identical to what was used in the retail intrusions. Transaction spreadsheets listing tens of millions of compromised accounts. And a long series of chat logs with an American partner who uses the handle Soup Nazi. When analysts cross-reference the timestamps and content of the conversations, they see discussions about specific retailers, wireless vulnerabilities, and large-scale data transfers. The tone suggests the American counterpart is not a broker. He is the person orchestrating the intrusions. The task force reviews the handle. They have seen it before. Years earlier, they compare notes. The realization hits with the same effect across the room. The American partner is not just a suspect. He is a current federal informant. The discovery is not announced publicly. It is not shared with lower-level investigators. Only a restricted circle of agents is informed. Their goal shifts from identifying a hacker to building a case against one of their own. The task force begins operating on two levels. A public investigation that continues as if nothing has changed. A silent investigation targeting the informant they once relied on. To avoid alerting him, agents stop cross-checking data in ways that would appear unusual. They avoid asking for additional background on his associates. They treat him in meetings exactly as they always have. Only 3 supervisors handle the internal updates. Emails are kept offline. Notes are handwritten. The priority is to confirm his involvement without exposing the direction of the investigation. Weeks into the review, a technical breakthrough occurs in a windowless office inside the Washington Task Force Center. An analyst examines wireless access point logs recovered from a Marshall's location. While scanning the metadata, he notices a device identifier that appears unusual. A repeated MAC address associated with late-night access attempts. He checks if the same identifier appears anywhere else. It does. Another breach at a different retailer shows the same MAC address interacting with the store's wireless network, shortly before malware appeared on their system. The analyst presents his findings. It is the first concrete trace connecting multiple intrusions to a single physical device. The task force establishes a new objective: locate the person operating the device. A team travels to Miami and begins late-night surveillance outside targeted stores. They operate from an unmarked van equipped with laptops tuned to detect incoming signals. The aim is simple: wait until the device comes online again. Night after night, agents sit for hours in silence. Traffic fades. The parking lot empties. The only activity is the scan of nearby networks. Then, shortly after 2 a.m, the signal appears. The same MAC address. Connecting briefly, then disconnecting. Agents exit the van and move through the lot. A car pulls out from the far corner and accelerates onto the street. They cannot stop it. They have no warrant, but they take note of its direction and model. The investigation now has a live operational lead. The intrusions are not being conducted remotely. The hacker is physically present in Miami. As the task force tightens its focus, another development breaks open the case from a different angle. Damon Towie, one of the key figures in the operation, is interviewed by investigators regarding an unrelated matter. The conversation shifts toward activity connected to retail breaches. The pressure builds. The potential charges would lead to a long federal sentence. Faced with the reality of his situation, Towie chooses self-preservation. He begins cooperating. Over multiple sessions, Towie outlines technical routines, meeting locations, operational habits, and the hierarchy of responsibilities. Without knowing the task force's suspicions, he confirms details that align with the evidence from Jastrzemski's laptop and the MAC address analysis. Towie explains who handled technical access, who coordinated distribution, and who directed the operation. The agents do not react. They do not confront him with their theory. They simply collect information. Inside the task force, the effect is immediate. The evidence aligns. Separate threads, foreign brokers, technical logs, wireless identifiers, transaction records. Towie's statements all converge toward the same individual. These investigators now understand the scale of the deception they are facing. Not only is their informant responsible, he has used their oversight to operate with unprecedented confidence. The next phase of the investigation requires absolute secrecy, precise timing, and coordinated action. The goal is no longer to confirm the suspect. That objective is complete. The goal now is to catch him before he realizes the case is closing around him. Late 2007, the task force now operates with 2 goals: identify the physical movements of the suspect and map the technical behavior of the device responsible for the breaches. Investigators shift from broad analysis to targeted surveillance. Nothing is shared outside the small circle aware of the informant's involvement. A key advantage appears in the technical review. The hacker's network card broadcasts a fixed hardware identifier, the same MAC address detected in multiple retail intrusions. Sophisticated criminals normally rotate devices to avoid linking operations. The suspect did not. This consistency gives investigators a rare advantage. Analysts build a tracking profile, estimated signal strength, likely antenna type, typical times of activity, mobility patterns based on channel shifts. Using this profile, agents refine their Miami surveillance strategy. Weeks after the first observation, the same MAC address surfaces again. This time it appears at a different retail location. Agents are ready. They are positioned in multiple unmarked vehicles across the lot. Shortly after 2 a.m., the target device connects to the store's wireless access point. The signal remains active long enough for agents to triangulate its direction. They move in silently. A sedan is parked in the darkest section of the lot. The windows are tinted, the engine is off. A laptop screen briefly illuminates the interior. Agents approach on foot, but before they close the distance, the car pulls out smoothly and heads toward the main road. The secure record the license plate and vehicle make. The moment is short, but it confirms the operator is conducting wireless intrusions from inside Miami stores. Investigators run the plate through state databases. It is registered to a rental company, not a private owner. The rental records show multiple recent transactions using rotating names and prepaid cards. However, one detail stands out. Several rentals are returned at the same location each time, often within 24 hours of late-night breaks at specific stores. This gives the task force a new strategy. Monitor the rental office, watch for the person using this pattern, and track nightly movements from a distance. Agents begin monitoring the rental lot from an empty storefront across the street. They maintain a rotating schedule to avoid being recognized. Over several nights, they observe a consistent routine. Shortly before closing time, a man arrives, retrieves a vehicle, and leaves quickly. The description is vague. Average build, baseball cap, casual clothing, but consistent. The task force compares the time of each rental with the timestamp of network intrusions. The alignment is exact. Night after night, the man picks up a car, drives to commercial areas, and returns the vehicle early the next morning. This is the first solid behavioral pattern linking the suspect to physical locations. While surveillance continues, forensic teams recover additional access point logs from other retailers involved in the breaches. Each log contains another instance of the same device identifier. More importantly, several logs contain timestamps showing active communication with internal store servers. Analysts map these connections to determine how the intrusions occur. Initial access through wireless network, lateral movement into point-of-sale systems, data extraction to hidden repositories, periodic transfers to external servers abroad. The technical sequence makes one fact clear. The intrusions are performed physically near the stores, not remotely from another country. This confirms the suspect is local and operating hands-on. After reviewing the mounting evidence, supervisors agree to proceed toward active capture. The goal is no longer long-term observation, it is short-term containment to prevent further data theft. Before moving forward, the task force updates the small group of agents who handle contact with the informant. Their interactions must continue exactly as before. Any change in tone could alert him. None of them are told to adjust their behavior. They are instructed only to avoid discussing details about the expanding investigation. The operation is now divided completely. Surveillance teams continue tracking the suspect's movements. Technical teams finalize network mapping. Internal handlers maintain normal contact without revealing anything. This tri-structure is designed to collapse simultaneously once a decision is made. During one night of surveillance, the suspect deviates from his pattern. He does not go to a retail location. Instead, he drives to a hotel parking structure in downtown Miami. He parks on the 5th level and begins scanning from the top floor. Agents adjust their positions. The suspect remains in the car for nearly 40 minutes. Then, unexpectedly, he steps out. He walks toward the railing and looks down at the street. The agents freeze. They assume he may have noticed unusual movement. They maintain their positions without shifting. After a long pause, the suspect returns to the vehicle and drives out of the structure. No data breaches are linked to the location. Analysts later determine he was testing signal ranges near large multi-floor buildings. The task force realizes the risk of discovery is rising. They begin planning for faster intervention. By late 2007, everything aligns. Physical surveillance confirms repeated late-night activity. Rental car records verify a pattern. Access point logs show the same device across multiple breaches. Technical analysis maps the intrusions to local wireless scanning. Statements from a cooperating associate match operational details. Foreign evidence identifies the American leader coordinating with overseas brokers. The task force concludes that every component points to a single operator. At this stage, the investigators face a narrow timeline. If they wait too long, the suspect may change devices, traveling habits, or communication methods. If they move too soon, they risk losing access to co-conspirators. A strategy meeting is held in Washington. The decision is made. They will shift from gathering evidence to planning synchronized arrests across multiple states. But before they act, they need one last requirement: confirmation that the suspect still stores assets and devices inside accessible locations. Agents prepare to execute residential and commercial warrants. Supervisors coordinate with field offices in 3 states. Secure communication channels are established. When the next phase begins, it must be executed without delay. The operation transitions silently into its final stage. The suspect continues his routine without knowing that every movement, every network scan, and every rented vehicle is being logged with precision. The next step is arrest, but it must be done in a location that eliminates risk, prevents escape, and safeguards evidence. That moment will arrive on a hotel floor in Miami Beach, February 2008. The investigation has moved from analysis to action. Multiple agencies finalize a coordinated plan to arrest every member of the operation at the same time. The objective is to prevent anyone from mourning the others or destroying evidence. Field teams in Florida, New York, and Massachusetts receive sealed packets detailing their roles. These packets remain unopened until the morning of the operation. Before any arrests occur, investigators must confirm the target's current location, routines, and access to computers or storage devices. Surveillance teams monitor his movements, recording times, companions, and daily habits. Patterns emerge quickly. Restaurants he frequents, the hours he leaves his apartment, and the evenings he spends in Miami Beach. In early May, agents receive confirmation that the suspect has booked a room at the National Hotel in Miami Beach under his girlfriend's name. The reservation spans 2 nights. The location is ideal for the operation. Controlled entrances, predictable foot traffic, and minimal escape routes. Supervisors approve the site as the primary arrest point. Teams are dispatched immediately. Agents from Miami's field office secure rooms on the same floor under false identities. Others monitor the lobby, disguised as tourists, couples, and business travelers. Technical units install mobile signal capture equipment to detect any attempts to access remote servers from inside the room. The operation is scheduled for the second night. This provides time to confirm the suspect is carrying devices essential to the case. At 10 p.m., agents gather in a closed conference suite on the hotel's lower floor. They review floor plans, emergency routes, and arrest positions. Each agent receives a printed copy of the room layout. They memorize furniture placement, door swing direction, and potential hiding spots. Supervisors highlight one priority. The suspect has access to firearms. Entry must be fast and overwhelming. Hesitation risks injury. Another priority is preserving digital evidence. If the suspect reaches a laptop or mobile device, he could wipe remote servers within seconds. The entry team is instructed to immobilize him immediately. Secondary teams will handle device containment. Shortly after 11 p.m., agents observe the suspect returning to the hotel with his girlfriend. He enters the lobby casually, unaware of the surveillance around him. He takes the elevator to the 15th floor. 2 agents in the hallway listen for movement inside the room. They hear the door open, then close, footsteps inside, luggage being placed down, water running in the bathroom. Normal activity. The entry team waits in a separate room, fully geared, weapons holstered but ready. No one speaks. They wait for the signal from surveillance confirming the suspect is settled and not anticipating movement. 30 minutes pass. Then the call comes through. Room 1508, occupant stationary, begin. Agents move into position with precision. 2 agents stand on either side of the door. Another positions himself opposite the handle for immediate entry. A 4th agent waits with a ballistic shield. Others stand behind, prepared to clear the room in sequence. In the lobby, disguised agents shift to block exits. On the street, vehicles reposition to prevent escape. Nearby units prepare to move simultaneously on other suspects in different states. The entire operation hinges on these next moments. At 12:43 a.m., the lead agent signals the breach. The ram hits the door once. It opens instantly. Agents flood the room in a controlled line. The suspect is standing near the bed, startled by the noise. He looks up, confused, not yet understanding what is happening. An agent orders him to the ground. He complies immediately, overwhelmed by the number of weapons pointed at him. His girlfriend remains frozen near the window. Agents restrain him, move him away from the nightstand, and secure the area. The entire arrest takes less than 20 seconds. With the suspect detained, secondary agents focus on the devices around the room. 2 laptops are open on the desk, screens still active. External drives lie beside them. A mobile phone is on the nightstand. All devices are seized using isolation bags to prevent remote interference. Inside a small black duffel bag, agents find $22,000 in banded cash. A handgun is located near the bedside drawer. Notebooks containing handwritten notes are collected. USB devices are documented and stored. The evidence is extensive and immediately useful. At the same time, the main entry team moves in. Agents in other states execute their warrants. In New York, 2 co-conspirators are detained in an apartment used for distributing stolen card data. In Massachusetts, another member of the operation is arrested while attempting to leave his home early for work. Across all locations, agents seize computers, routers, flash drives, SIAM cards, and financial documents. The goal is to prevent any co-conspirator from contacting another. By sunrise, 11 individuals connected to the operation are in custody. Later that morning, a separate team arrives at the suspect's family home in Miami. The warrant includes permission to search the entire property, including the yard. Agents move methodically through each room. They locate several devices, including older computers used during the early years of the operation. They also find bags of cash inside closets and drawers. But the most significant discovery occurs outside. A patch of disturbed soil behind the house draws attention. The ground appears recently turned. Agents use shovels to investigate. A few feet below the surface, metal scrapes against metal. They uncover a large plastic drum sealed with duct tape. Inside the drum are vacuum-sealed bricks of cash totaling $1.1 million. Agents photograph the finding, seal it, and transport it for processing. Across all scenes, evidence is logged and transferred to a central facility. Devices are cloned. Hard drives are preserved. Investigators begin comparing the seized items with data recovered during the earlier stages of the case. The consistency is immediate. The internal tools match malware found in retail breaches. Email accounts link directly to broker communications abroad. Financial records tie purchases and rentals to specific dates of intrusions. And notes found in the hotel room reference network structures from several targeted retailers. Nothing contradicts the case. Every piece reinforces it. During initial processing, the suspect remains composed. He asks few questions, speaks minimally, and avoids acknowledging the scale of the operation. He requests legal representation. Agents do not discuss details. They simply record each procedural step. In transport vehicles, he keeps his eyes forward, silent. He understands the situation. He has no immediate path out. Despite the magnitude of the operation, agencies release no statements on the first day. The breach investigations are still active. Prosecutors want a complete case before publicizing anything. All suspects remain in federal custody under sealed filings. The internal goal is to finish the forensic review before announcing charges. The focus shifts entirely to building indictments. The next step occurs in August, when prosecutors unveil the full scale of the case to the public. But that revelation belongs to the next chapter. The trap has closed. The operation is finished. Now begins the legal and financial fallout. August 2008. Federal prosecutors in Boston unseal the first set of indictments. The documents outline a coordinated hacking operation targeting major U.S. retailers. The numbers are unlike anything previously documented in an American cybercrime case. Prosecutors list over 40 million compromised accounts tied to breaches at TJX, BJ's Wholesale Club, Office Max, Dave & Buster's, and other nationwide chains. Court officials prepare for a high-profile case. Media outlets request comment. Companies issue statements admitting damage. Customers begin receiving letters informing them that their financial data may have been stolen. The case quickly grows beyond criminal prosecution. It becomes a national incident, affecting millions of cardholders. In 2009, prosecutors reveal an additional breach that had not been publicly linked to the earlier incidents. The investigation identifies an intrusion at Heartland Payment Systems, one of the country's largest payment processors. The breach exposes 130 million more accounts, dwarfing every previous figure. This revelation changes the scale of the case. Investigators now calculate the total number of compromised cards at around 170 million, a volume with no precedent in the United States. Losses across banks, processors, and retailers exceed hundreds of millions of dollars. Prosecutors announce additional charges in New Jersey related to this newly discovered breach. The Department of Justice classifies the combined cases as the largest identity theft prosecution in American history. Defense attorneys begin negotiations, but the evidence is overwhelming. Digital logs match intrusion times. Overseas communications align with transaction traffic. Devices seized from multiple states contain identical tools used in the breaches. The government's case is fully constructed before the trial date. During pre-sentencing hearings, victims testify through written statements. Banks describe emergency reissue campaigns. Retailers detail financial losses and infrastructure shutdowns. Payment processors outline the cost of rebuilding their systems. The court reviews thousands of pages of forensic reports. No element of the operation appears accidental or improvised. Every intrusion is shown to be deliberate and structured. March 2010. The courtroom is filled with reporters, analysts, and industry observers. The defendant enters wearing a suit several sizes too large, noticeably thinner than during the years of the operation. Prosecutors request a lengthy sentence, citing the scale of the crime, the financial damage, and the deliberate exploitation of government trust. The government argues that the case requires a punishment that reflects both the severity of the losses and the risk posed by similar future crimes. The judge agrees. He delivers a sentence of 20 years in federal prison divided into consecutive terms, reflecting each major breach. The length is designed to function as a national deterrent for cybercriminals who exploit systemic weaknesses. The courtroom is silent as the sentences read. There is no visible reaction from the defendant. In the months that follow, companies calculate the impact of the breaches. TJX spends more than $170 million on settlements, legal fees, and security upgrades. Heartland Payment Systems reports $12.6 million in direct losses, excluding long-term restructuring costs. Banks nationwide conduct mass card replacements, incurring further expenses. Retailers introduce new monitoring and access protocols to prevent similar intrusions. The ripple effects reach businesses that were never directly breached. Insurance policies are renegotiated. Payment networks revise their fraud detection requirements. The case becomes a reference point in discussions about retail cybersecurity. At the time of the breaches, the United States still relied heavily on magnetic stripe cards, a technology far easier to clone than modern alternatives. Although security experts had previously recommended stronger authentication systems, the financial industry had delayed widespread adoption. The case changes that. Payment networks accelerate the transition to chip-enabled cards. Retailers update terminals. Banks update issuance schedules. New compliance standards under PCI DSS become mandatory rather than optional. Within a few years, chip cards become the national standard. Executives across the industry cite the case as a defining factor in the timeline. The defendant is assigned to facilities under the Bureau of Prisons. Over the years, he is transferred between institutions, including a federal medical center for health monitoring. During incarceration, he sends occasional letters through legal channels. In one statement submitted during an appeal attempt, he describes his motivation as a pursuit of technical achievement, not monetary greed. Prosecutors respond by noting the scale of financial gain and the deliberate planning behind the operation. No appeals succeed. The sentence stands. September 19th, 2023. After completing his term and qualifying for standard federal reductions, the defendant is released quietly. There are no interviews, no cameras, and no public statements. His release receives minimal media coverage. For most of the industry, the case is a closed chapter. He enters a world that operates with security measures that did not exist when he began hacking. Payment terminals use encrypted transactions. Wireless networks require strong authentication. Retailers maintain compliance logs that flag suspicious activity within minutes. Every one of those changes traces back in part to the events uncovered during the investigation. To the financial sector, the case remains a benchmark. The moment when large-scale retail data theft became impossible to ignore. Industry conferences cite it as a lesson in overlooked vulnerabilities. Compliance training references it as an example of how long breaches can go undetected. Security officers study it when reviewing corporate network architecture. To investigators, it stands as a reminder of the risks involved in informant management. The case prompts updated oversight rules for confidential sources working on cybercrime investigations. To cybersecurity professionals, it is a demonstration of how quickly a single operator can exploit systemic weaknesses when detection measures lag behind criminal techniques. The case leaves one final reality. A single individual working with a small group and basic equipment forced the entire U.S. payment system to modernize. He returns to a world shaped by the consequences of his actions. A world built to prevent anyone from doing what he did again.